In this chapter, we're going to be adding and subtracting real numbers. We're going to start by adding and subtracting numbers on a number line. So let's look at sample problem, -3 plus 6. You want to start at the 0 on the number line and move 3 units to the left because it's a -3. Next, you want to move 6 units to the right because it's a +6. You can see that we arrive at the +3, which is the answer to -3 plus 6. Now we're going to look at absolute value. Absolute value of a number is its distance from 0 on a number line. For example, the absolute value of 5 would be 5 because if you look at it on the number line, 5 is 5 units away from 0. If we look at the absolute value of -5, we see that that is also 5 because it is also 5 units away from the number line. Values in absolute value will always be positive. Now we're looking at adding real numbers. When adding numbers with the same sign, add the absolute values and use the sign of the numbers. So let's look at 3 plus 6. You want to find the absolute value of 3 and the absolute value of 6. We can see that when we find the absolute value, it becomes 3 plus 6. We can add the numbers together. 3 plus 6 equals 9. And it's a +9 because both the 3 and the 6 are positive. Now we're going to look at another example. -2 plus -9. We want to take the absolute value of both numbers first. So we end up getting 2 plus 9, which equals 11, but we have to add a negative in front of the 11 because 2 and 9 are both negatives. Now we're going to look at adding numbers with different signs. When adding numbers with different signs, subtract the absolute values and use the sign of the number with the greater absolute value. So let's look at -8 plus 12. Start by taking the absolute value of both. So absolute value of 8 minus absolute value of 12. You would get 8 minus 12, which equals -4. But because 12 is the greater absolute value and is a positive number, you know that your answer should be positive. Now let's look at another example. 3 plus -15. Let's start by subtracting the absolute value, so the absolute value of 3 minus the absolute value of -15. Okay, so you should get 3 minus 15, and when you solve that out, you get -12. And because 15 was the larger absolute value and it was a negative, -12 is the answer. Now we're going to look at subtracting real numbers. Our example is 7 minus 10. You can change this to an addition problem because 7 minus 10 is equal to 7 plus -10. Now we can use the rules for adding numbers with different signs. So let's start by taking the absolute value and subtracting them. So the absolute value of 7 minus the absolute value of -10. The reason it's subtracting is because the two numbers have different signs. Now, after we solve the absolute value, we get 7 minus 10. 7 minus 10 equals -3, and it's a negative because -10 had the greater absolute value.